Hey guys, I really wasn't planning on a video this morning, but I really got to share something with you. An exciting email I received last night. I was thinking about it all morning. I'm driving to work. I actually missed my turn. I come here at my first stop every Wednesday and I had to make a U-turn. I got a few minutes before my first stop opened, so this is a really exciting message I want to give you this morning. But first, I want to remind you, if you are buying or selling a house, please go to realestateforlife.org and ask to speak to a local realtor. Realestateforlife.org. So, if you know anything about me, if you've seen my first video, why so many evangelicals are becoming Catholic, actually, I'll see if I can get, I'm working today, but I'll see if I'll text my son, see if he could put it at the end. It could pop up. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it. In that video, I talk about how I was an evangelical, and I read a bunch of Catholic scholars, and they led me home to the Catholic Church. So I was thinking about one, and I was just figuring, let me throw a Hail Mary. This guy is super popular. He's probably super busy. I could tell he truly loves the Lord, and he's a really super nice guy, but I'm like, I don't know. I want to ask him to come on my podcast, but he probably don't have time for some blue-collar guy who makes half his videos while he's sitting in his truck in the rain. So I threw it out there, and I didn't hear nothing for a few days. And then last night I come home from work, and it was, frustrating day. I was tired, sweaty, took a shower, ate dinner, and then go on my email. And lo and behold, someone from his staff said this scholar would like to come on my podcast. And, so I told my wife, and my wife's not easily impressed, and even she was impressed. And I said, babe, I feel like crying. And she said, babe, you are crying. I was so touched that this guy would take the time out for someone like me to come on my show and to talk to me. I was just blown away. I was just blown away. And I had asked to speak if, I was interested in one topic. And his staff said, yeah, he would, he'd be happy to talk about that topic. But he would also like to talk about his new book. He thinks it would be relatable to some of your recent videos. And I said, ma'am, this guy could talk about whatever he wants on my channel. I don't know if that was very professional, but I'm like, he could come on and he could talk about whatever he wants. The microphone is his. And then I looked up the book, and I was like, wow, that is relatable. And I've read, I don't know, maybe a dozen of his books. His books I eat up like candy. When I open up one of this guy's books, I don't put it down until it's done. Literally. I come home from work. My wife says, oh, you got a book, and Amazon sent you a book. I will rip that package open, and I'm reading it during dinner. I'm reading it until I go to sleep at night. This guy is so captivating, the way he writes, his understanding of the scriptures, his understanding of the church. And although he's a scholar, he puts it in ways that are so readable and understandable. This guy is amazing. It's no wonder he's as popular as he is. And I'm not going to tell you his name until we have it locked down in stone. I had to give him some dates. I felt like saying, you tell me whenever he wants to come on, he can come on. But I gave him some dates that would actually work good for both of us, hopefully. And as soon as we have a date and time locked down, I'll tell you his name, and right away you'll recognize him, and you're not going to want to miss this one. But it got me thinking, about blue-collar guys in the church and scholars in the church. And God has used both of us from the very beginning. St. Paul, I believe, was a scholar, and St. Peter was a blue-collar guy. And throughout church history, you can name scholars and blue-collars that God used. And, you always see me with Navy gear and always talking about the Navy. And a lot of people think I was a lifer. I did 20 years. All I did was a 4-year enlistment. But God used those 4 years in the Navy to make me who I am, and I'm so thankful for it. And there's so many life lessons that I draw from that. And one of them is like how how, scholarly, educated officers dealt with, enlisted guys like me, how we had a mutual respect. And, this is a funny story, but one of my lieutenants was telling me when he was on his first ship, he said this ensign, right out of college, got his whatchamacallit, became an officer, and he was on the ship, and he goes running to the captain of the ship one day, like with brown stains all over his beautiful white uniforms. Navy officers got the sharpest white uniforms, and it was covered in it was all brown stains all over it. And the captain's like, "What happened to you?" He's like, the chiefs, they all threw coffee on me. This guy had, and he, of course, officers outrank the chiefs. And the captain's like, "What? They threw coffee on you? Why would they do that?" And he said, "Well, I walked into the break room." And the captain said, "Well, did you knock?" And he's like, "No, I didn't knock." He's like, "Well, you deserve for them to throw coffee on you. We respect our chiefs in the Navy." And I realized that although the officers are more educated than the enlisted guys, formal education, and they outrank us, and we have to obey them when they tell us, do something, they had such a respect for the enlisted chiefs because they actually been in the Navy so long. And it's tradition when an ensign goes on a ship, he's assigned a chief for a year, and the chief kind of mentors him, even though the ensign outranks him, and you still got to salute the ensign. The chief mentors him, and I find that in the Catholic Church that I've been blessed to talk to some scholars, and there's like a mutual respect. There's no condensation. I mean, they don't talk down on me. We talk as equals, and it's so awesome. I mean, if you see my recent interview with Dr. Alan Keyes, I mean, this guy I think is like the smartest guy that ever ran for president. Definitely what you would call a scholar, and we just talk like two brothers talking in church. And I had Timothy Gordon before that, and he would probably feel more comfortable in a boxing club than a country club. And I don't think he likes the title of scholar, but he's a scholar. He's, I think, fits the definition of a scholar. And this guest that I'm going to have on, he's definitely a scholar, and I'm really excited. And when I make the announcement, I'm going to give you enough time, so you definitely watch this podcast. This is going to be my best ever, I think. And like I said, his new book is so relatable to what we've been talking about on this channel recently. And I was surprised, too, because I've never seen any of his books talk about this subject. Normally, it's more deep theological stuff that I really enjoy. But this, I am anticipating this book. The staffer said they would send me a copy. I can't wait to get it. But if she's watching, I forgot to give you my address. I'll email you my address tonight. I was so excited. I forgot to send you my address. But I'm going to eat that book up, and I'll be ready for this scholar to ask him some good questions. And I'm sure he's going to bless your socks off. And I just want to share one other thing. When I was in the Navy, if you've seen my video, Breaking Bad, I kind of tell you what a bad kid I was, juvenile delinquent. And I only got in the Navy by the grace of God because I was a high school dropout, and it was only because President Ronald Reagan wanted a 600-ship Navy, so they gave me a waiver. And to get that waiver, I had to score double what a high school graduate had to score. So I had to score really high. So basically, you had to prove you were smart even though you weren't educated. And so by the grace of God, I was able to do that and get in. And I got married to my high school sweetheart. She got pregnant right after. And then my lieutenant came up to me and said, there's a program in the Navy called the Navy Boost Program, and we want to put you in it. And I said, well, what's that? They said, it's for economically disadvantaged sailors who didn't get a chance to go to college, but based on their ASVAB score, they're smart enough to go to college, and based on their, I think you had to have like a year in the Navy. Based on their service, they meet all the other requirements and criteria. So I was so excited. They would put you to Annapolis. I would become an officer, and before it was called the Boost Program. They would send you to Annapolis to become an officer, but beforehand they would send you to like 9 months of intense training to prepare you for the academic rigors of the Naval Academy. So I was so stoked because even though I was a juvenile delinquent, I loved to read, and I read scholars, and I was, that was my dream, to be a scholar. I'm like, get a PhD. And even though, I was, like I said, I got in a lot of trouble as a kid, and by the grace of God, he changed my life. But I always felt like, oh, when I get older, I'll be able to get it together. But, you reap what you sow, and sometimes you just can't get it together. There's just so much baggage. And so long story short, I was like, wow, I was so thankful. I'm like, God knew that my heart's desire was to go to college, and he's going to, the Bible says he'll restore the years the locusts have eaten. And I was so excited. And after I filled out the paperwork, my lieutenant came back to me and said, oh, I didn't know you were married. And I was like, yeah, is that a problem? They're like, yeah, you can't be married and go to Annapolis. This is what you got to do. You have to divorce your wife and, keep her like your girlfriend, and then when you graduate, you can get remarried and you'll have a great life as an officer together. And even though I wasn't a Catholic Christian, I was still a Christian. And I was like, I can't, divorce is a sin. I can't divorce, number one. Number two, my wife is pregnant. I'm not going to do this to her. So I was kind of bummed out. But looking back, God uses all things for good, the Bible says, and he has restored the years the locusts have eaten. Because although I wasn't able to go become a scholar myself, I was able to appreciate scholars even more. And I eat up guys like this guy I'm going to have on my show. I eat up their information. I eat up, the scholars in the church, and everything they have to say, I want to hear. And I just want to say, wherever you are in life, God will use it. I mean, just think, if I became a scholar, number one, if I would have went to the academy, if I would have did what I was told, divorced my wife, I probably would have moved further away from God, and maybe never would have became a Catholic, because the deeper I got in my faith as a Protestant Christian brought me to the Catholic Church. So number one, I would have never been Catholic. Number two, I wouldn't have been blue collar, so it would have been no blue collar Catholic. And not only that, I would have been well off. Officers get paid really well. Instead, my wife and I struggled most of our lives. 5 children as an enlisted man, and then I got out and, always had to work 2 jobs. And I always thought, I even had, I did another college plan in the Navy where they give you some money. So when you get out, they tripled it and you go to college. But I had to use that for rent when I got out. So I never went to college. And it always bothered me that I never went to college. But God used it. I mean, I went through so many rough times. Sometimes it was so hard. In fact, there was one time I was so broke, I went to the bank to get a loan, and the loan officer said, "Sir, there's men on death row with better credit scores than you." But in those times of struggle, I look back, and there were the times that I grew in the Lord the most. We grew in our marriage the most. Tough times brings you growth. When you work out in a gym, if you're not sweating, your muscles aren't growing. And in life, spiritually, if you're not sweating, you're not growing spiritually. So I thank God for all my trials and tribulations. I count it all joy. It sounds like a cliche. Sounds like a cliche, but God does use all things together for good. That's a promise in the Bible. That's real. So no matter where you are in your life, let God use you. Let God use your experience. We're called to evangelize the world. If I was in some ivory tower teaching, that would be great. I would be preparing people. But I'm in the world right now. I'm dealing with people that are going through hard times. I do 15, 20 stops a day. I'm interacting with people, and I'm able to share the stuff I learned from all these scholars. This morning, I used something from the guy that I got on, a little apologetic thing that he taught me in one of his books. In fact, I had a video about Carmen, the singer who just passed away, and I talked about purgatory, and someone said, "Oh, the Bible is our foundation of our faith. If it's not in the Bible, I don't want to hear about it." And I said, well, that's funny, because the Bible says the church is the pillar and foundation of our faith. So we're out here in the field. The scholars are like the generals in the Pentagon. training us, setting up the plan. And then us blue collar guys, we're out here, blue collars and scholars, fighting the good fight for Jesus Christ, a new evangelization, bringing baptized Christians back to the church, bringing pagans into the church. This is what we're called to do. And I'm just excited again. And I don't mean to make this as a tease, not telling you who it's going to be, but I know this man is very busy, and if the dates don't line up and we can't work it out, I don't want to put it out there. But as soon as I have it locked down, we have a date and a time, I promise you I will make the announcement. And you guys are going to be blessed. Your socks are going to be knocked off. This is going to be the best interview I ever had, I think. So God bless and stay Catholic. I got to get to work.